Hi everyone, Chiropractic in Austin, Texas. Sorry I'm a few minutes late. Had some Wi-Fi issues, which is not my forte, so we're in a totally different location, but hopefully it works. Let me know in the messages if it doesn't. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about allergies. I know it is Central Texas, and here for us, this is our favorite time of year. If you're watching from somewhere that isn't Central Texas, this is when things get a little bit rough as far as allergies go for people. My one of my most memorable first year here memories is I was standing out looking over the green belt, and I thought something was on fire. I thought there was smoke, and it turns out it was just clouds and clouds of pollen like cascading through the air. So that was my first time that I kind of looked around and was like, oh, that's how it's going to be here. But really, there's no such thing as a season for allergies. There's allergens in the air all the time. It can be mold, it can be cedar. Obviously, that's the one we talk about the most right now. If you hear that, that's cat, so cat dander, pet things like that. All of that is something that's kind of coming into your system all the time. Now, the key really is that we need to be able to manage it appropriately. That's where the problem lies, is that a lot of us have problems like mitigating that immune response when we have allergens in our system. And really, it's adaptability. And the immune system, it has to be dynamic. It has to be able to react to things differently. Quick little fun fact about cedar, by the way, since I know it's everybody's favorite thing right this instant. The reason cedar is so bad here, cedar is not a native tree to Central Texas, but it's a very beautiful tree and it does well in the winter. So when they were doing the city planning, they planted a whole bunch of cedar trees, but they only planted the male trees, the ones that released the pollen, because the female trees were dropping pods and they thought that was too much cleanup. So blame the guys that planned the city many moons ago. That's why we have so much cedar. Anyway, I digress. The immune system really, it starts in utero, right? And the most important vital times for building your immune system, including your response to allergies, is from zero, from day one, birth, all the way to about 6 months. So it includes kind of the birthing process. People who are born via C-section, like myself, we are about 3 times more likely to get asthma by the time we are 31. A lot of good immune system building happens on the way out of the birth canal. Breastfeeding is a huge thing, and then as your world gets bigger, as you're a baby and you get exposed to more things, that's really where the immune system builds. Obviously, that ship has sailed for a lot of us. If you're watching this, you're done with that part of your life. So it's kind of what we do moving forward that's going to make the big difference. And basically what happens, the way your immune system reacts to things is with a specific thing called an immunoglobulin. You're probably hearing a little bit more about those now. There's many different types. There's A, E, G, M. We're hearing more about M and G right now in the news, and because of COVID, because that's what people are testing, the IgG and the IgM, to see if you've had COVID, been exposed, if you already have the immunoglobulins. Today we're going to be talking more about IgE. So IgE is the immunoglobulin that is in your mucosal linings along with A, and it's the mucosal linings of your sinuses, your bronchioles, your lungs, and your digestive system. So what these IgEs do is they are in control of basically recognizing if something comes at you that isn't part of you. You'll hear them referred to as non-self proteins. And what happens is your body will identify that and say, hey, wait a second, that's not supposed to be here. That might be harmful. So what your IgEs do is they release a mast cell. What the mast cell does is it activates histamine. We should all be pretty familiar with histamine. We've had those symptoms, right? Histamine will trigger your nasal passages to inflame. They get inflamed, they start producing mucus. The mucus goes to the non-self protein and walls it off so that it cannot hurt you. That's good. That's fine. That's what's supposed to happen. The problem is that that should be something that's self-limiting. Your body should be like, all right, cool. We took this non-self protein, we walled it off. Let's retire. Let's go hang out. We're done here. The problem is that that doesn't happen all the time, right? And that's what most of us experience when we have some sort of allergy episode and we're sneezing a lot and coughing and it's just draining all the time, is the body did not recognize that, okay, the antigen is taken care of, we don't need to be overproducing mucus anymore. And it just keeps doing it. It's a vicious cycle, right? It's self-repeating. And another big problem that'll happen is if your body starts to attack self proteins. And that's what autoimmune problems are, is your body just starts to attack those instead. So both of them are separate issues, and we'll be doing another Facebook Live on autoimmune issues at a certain point, but that's really what we're looking at as far as the process goes. So the typical presentation that we'll see in patients is that they'll be on, all sorts of allergy meds at this point. There's different ones. There's generic, there's over the counter, there's prescription. People are taking Flonase, anti-histamines, Benadryl. And what these do is it's actually dampening your response. And if you need to, I'm not saying it's all bad, right? Like if you have had anaphylactic issues, please have an EpiPen, which are criminally overpriced, by the way. Make sure you have access to something like that. But when you're using them every day, day to day, just to get through, you're actually kind of creating even more of a vicious cycle where now your body needs higher amounts of the pollen of the issues to get into your body before you have a response, and then it's an over response again. So you can see how that would be kind of a trickle down effect where the more you use the medication, the more input you need to get a response, and then you need more meds. And we'll see people come in who are like, yeah, I take a Claritin and now I'm on Flonase and now I've gone up to 2 Claritin, and it's because the actual problem isn't really getting addressed the way that your body needs it to. So that's kind of what happens. But once those non-self proteins have been walled off by the mucus, you can do things to help them get out of your body faster, and that will make your immune response less long and less terrible, honestly. So when you are hydrated, and I know this is something you hear us talk about all the time. We could talk this to death, but if you drink the amount of water that you were supposed to drink, your body will clear these things faster. Iced tea does not count as water. Soda does not count as water. Coffee does not count as water. It is going to help you hydrate, and it's going to get things out of your system better. Mucus is mostly fluid, and the more kind of fluidy it is, the easier it is to get out of your body. It's also going to help your digestion, all of that as well. If you know that you have, like when I get allergies, I will get it is right here. It is under the eyes. I get those shiners. I look like somebody's punched me in the face. A neti pot helps a lot. It helps get everything out of the cavities themselves, and they're bigger than you think they are. They start here, they come all the way up under your face and deep back, and they're up here. So getting any sort of irritant out of there ends up being really helpful for you once it's been walled off and your immune system's done its job. Once that irritant's out, your immune system, those mast cells, can calm back down, and you're not going to have as much of a reaction. That's the goal with that there. Another thing you can do to make sure your mucus isn't going crazy when there is a response, cut out sugar and dairy. If you've ever had dairy and kind of had to clear your throat a little bit afterwards, it's because sugar and dairy are two things that make your body produce more mucus. That's pretty much the last thing you want when you're in allergy central, because your body's just going to seize upon that and keep producing. Sugar itself, by the way, huge immunosuppressant. 75 grams of sugar a day will decrease your immune system function by 50%. That's insane. That is a huge drop in your immune function from sugar. And 75 grams is probably less than you think it is. It's pretty easy to get that. So just limit your sugar, limit your dairy. But one of the things that we'll work with is on our office, when you get a chiropractic adjustment, this is actually something we're working on. We're never really treating the allergies themselves, right? We're making sure that your immune system can function and balance itself the way that it's supposed to, removing the interference so that your body can start to do the things that it needs to do. But we will often have patients say, hey, after that adjustment, I could feel better. I've noticed that I haven't been sneezing as much. My allergies have been a lot better. My eyes haven't swollen shut for a couple days. All that's great. It's not us though, it's you. It's your body doing what it needs to do and calming itself down. It's more blood flow, more lymph flow, all of these things getting the junk out of your body. The other thing that we work on though in our office is your sympathetic nervous system. So that fight or flight response, right? I know we've talked about that before as well, but any sort of stress like that, if you have asthma, you know what I mean. You can get yourself to an asthma attack if you're stressed, right? If you're under stress, that's what's going to be something that triggers the asthma attack. So keeping your nervous system down and not in a fight or flight response ends up being really protective to your heart, lungs, and response to things like that. But another big part of it is when you are in a sympathetic state, everything in your body is hyper responsive. You are ready to fight, you are ready to flee, you are ready to do all of these things. That is a in your sinuses in your head as well. So any sort of thing that would trigger you that might not normally trigger that part of your body as much, that gets heightened. So our job is to make sure that you are not in that sympathetic state for long periods of time so that your body can kind of react the way that it's meant to. And believe it or not, getting outside is actually a good thing. I know that's not like the thing you actually want to hear right now, but movement generally is good. I'm sorry, that's the cat. Movement keeps the blood and the lymph flowing. It keeps things getting out of your body. But when you're outside, you're heightening your exposure to things that are going to make you stronger. I'm not saying like that cloud that I saw when I first moved here, don't go out and jog in that. Like be smart about it. But when you're out probably early in the morning before everything starts to pollinate, that's a good way to get yourself exposed to some things so that your response rate isn't like insane. We have talked before, actually, I did a Facebook Live on the immune system a few months ago about the hygiene hypothesis. This is another big part of that. So one of the things we've accidentally done to ourselves is when we cleaned up our environment, we probably messed up our immune systems a little bit. We're not getting the exposure to things that we used to. So one of the things that I think is so funny is in the 19th century, they used to call hay fever the disease of the aristocracy because other people never got outside. They were busy like living in their mansions. We've kind of done that to ourselves. We're not out there in things that often. The study that I cite in the other live event on the immune system is talking about Amish children in particular. When they looked at those children as a population, their microbiome was much more advanced than children who had not been raised with many siblings outside around animals, and those kids had the Amish children had almost a zero incidence of allergies and asthma. So getting out and interacting with your environment helps your immune system and your allergies overall. Even if you are staying inside, that's great. I fall for it every time when the weather's nice. I throw these windows open, get a nice air filter. That's going to be something that keeps your air inside clean. And that is something worth thinking about because the US EPA looked at the air quality indoors in American homes and found that the levels of toxic chemicals were actually 70 times higher than outside. So just make sure you're protecting yourself indoors and outdoors. Beyond the neti pot to help you kind of clear things out, you can actually supplement with a few things as well. Quercetin starts with a Q, and we'll leave it in the notes. That is something that it stabilizes your mucous membrane so it's not overproducing so much. And you can get that naturally. That is in red grapes. It's in red onions. You can also supplement it as a pill. The only thing about quercetin is you're going to want to limit it to when you know your allergies are quite bad. So like this time of year for me isn't that bad, but ragweed season is when I do supplement with quercetin just to make sure that my membranes are stable. You can also be supplementing with N-acetylcysteine, and what that does is it decreases the viscosity of your mucus. So when it does trap something, it's an easy way to just get it out of your body. Another thing you can consider doing is getting a nasal spray that has vitamin C in it. We talk about vitamin C usually in terms of general immune system boosting, particularly with viral and bacterial exposure. But when you are using vitamin C directly on your mucous membranes, it's actually decreasing your histamine overreaction. So they did this great study with patients who had allergic rhinitis, allergies, and for 2 weeks they used an intranasal spray. It was just saline and vitamin C, and they sprayed it up their nose once or twice a day, and they saw a 74% decrease in their nasal edema and secretions, which was a huge change. And the people who were in the study were very pleased. So that's something else to keep in mind. That saline vitamin C mixture is actually pretty easy to get. They have it at Target. I've seen it at HEB. You can order it online. But that's something to have in your pocket and try instead of doing some of those other sprays that have steroids or something like that in there. So when you're kind of looking at your life and how the allergies are impacting you, if you know that fight or flight is something that you're in, or if you know somebody who their nervous system checked because you can tell there's just some things that they're not clearing, they're not responding to their environment the way that you're supposed to, anywhere from children to adults. If you want to get them checked, an exam in our office is usually $315. But if you tell them about this Facebook Live and they mention allergies, they can get the full exam, x-rays, orthopedic tests, review of findings, and consult with the doctor, and a pillow, an orthopedic pillow, for $49. So if there's anyone that you'd like to get checked, please just have them contact us and mention this Facebook Live and allergies, and we'll make sure that we are able to figure out if we can help or not. So thanks for tuning in for this 4 Points Family Chiropractic Live. Keep an eye on our schedule for next month. Dr. Neblet's going to be doing one on raising crazy healthy kids. It's great. I'm excited for you guys to see it. It's a lot of really helpful information. So good luck out there. It's a gorgeous day today. I've never looked at the air quality more than I have in Texas. It looks like it's all right today. So get out there and have fun, and good luck.